bring it. Point 3, section 3.4, if you please go to that. Right. Advance the innovative practices of PhD through ongoing documentation and research. So I think that the research has to be an extended role. It's just not looking into the innovative practices. So including the impact, the kind of intersectoral connections, all those. So it has to be slightly reformulated. Uh, Very minor, but I think it is important that most part of the world, Kominkan are not. Someone pointed out about the legal framework. Uh, Kominkan's relations with the local governments. So when we talk about the legal framework, we have to bring the issue of local governments connection with the Kominkans DCLCs. So it has to be part of the kind of legal framework that someone has pointed out. And the final point, it is, I think, on the 1.3.2. Could you please go to that 1.3.2? Yeah. Uh, there is a word somewhere, anxieties. Uh, yeah. So I wonder, my mother tongue is not English, but I wonder whether we put in a more positive sense that it's not only the anxieties, but also with the hope. And with the first 700, very first number of 700, somehow I am missing the women. Yeah, we 700 there are, because usually when we look at a number, we essentially think of men and not always the women. Somehow being that is half of the house are women. Thank you.
I only have an overall comment, and that is my wish that this admirable and very beautiful document can can be used in relation to getting community-based learning and CLCs a stronger place also in the global action program, in the Seoul Conference, the World Education Forum, and not least in the Sustainable Development Goals. My wish would be that we can sharpen the document, we can sharpen the arguments in the document, why uh, or how can community-based learning play a more important role and should play a more important role in the future to reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. We've agreed that it has been underestimated the last 10 years. Now it can play a more important role. What is the argument and what are the good arguments? And my last point is, can we have a kind of sharpening also of a few sentences in relation to a key message, so that when we have read the commitment or the charter, we close our eyes. What is it we remember? What is the key message for which the Okayama Commitment 2014 will be remembered? Could that be sharpened a bit? Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to give any comments?
はい、いろんな意見をいただきました。これはちょっと精査して、またどのように扱えるか議論させていただきたいと思いますが、全体的なことですが、ずっとこの文章の作成を手探りしながらやってきましたけれども、非常に出来上がったものを、自分で言うのもなんですけれども、見直してみるととても内容豊かで、非常に細かいところに議論が行き及んだということがよくわかる、そういう意味で非常に良い集会になったんではないかなというふうに感じています。なかなかどう言いますか、全体的なその世界に対して 提案していかなきゃいけないものですので、どの程度皆さんのご要望をそのまま受け止められるかどうかっていうことは少し考えさせていただかなきゃいけない面があるかと思いますが、まだ続きますので最大限の努力をしたいと思います。
Yeah, I guess the most content, there are two really strong contentious things is in terms of, I think we can decide later, is we wanted to adopt both the English and the Japanese. There is a suggestion to just adopt the English and therefore allow time for the Japanese to be developed. Is that something acceptable, or you'd rather have both? Again, I think we're very sensitive, of course, that it has to be in the language also of the host country. So how do we, uh, can we discuss and propose to you after lunch? Is that okay? So I think that's the first main issue. The second main issue, I think, around the restructure and the key message. I think it's the sharpening of the restructure and the key message. And thank you. Like if and this is something about when you start to write linearly, we started from here to get to there. But I think given we want to have an impact, maybe we should start to what we want to say and then explain what we want, why we are saying that. So there's a restructure that we can actually respond to, and I think that's clear. I think the third message that I'm getting clearly is that we need to be clear about, in terms of not just the restructure, but the key message of the important role of Kominkan CLCs in the future of education for sustainable development. No longer considering just to say formal, non-formal, but this is the position and the role. And I think that will be clearly more articulated if we put up in terms of the key messages. The others are very specific contributions to specific sections, and I think most of them will really be manageable without having as long, without extending much of the document. And in terms of, I think it's important, and sorry we don't have it in the English version, in terms of acknowledging Okayama, I think it's in the Japanese version, but I think we can acknowledge and thank Okayama, not just for hosting us, but also in the ongoing commitment that it has had in terms of education for sustainable development. And so, uh, and I think part of from Willie, what I heard was we're not just putting this up for Nagoya. I think that's where, in terms of the focus on the diagram is Nagoya, we're actually saying also that this is part of the gap and it therefore should go not just upwards to Nagoya, but actually to the local communities and the national areas where when we go back. So I think in the spirit, and the other one is, if there's time to look at the metaphor of the grapes, again that is a more a way of rounding it up in terms of telling the story. But the other comments are actually, I think, workable in terms of emphasis of some of the words that we might have missed. As you were saying, some of the words we said, oh yeah, we saw that, but it's somehow at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think they dropped out of trying to phrase. So we will revisit the tables again over lunch. And so on behalf of Sumimato Sensei, on behalf of uh, I know everybody was part of the drafting, but can I just ask everybody who was part of the process, from the facilitators to the breakout sessions to the part last night, to just stand up and just, because I think people said that we have managed to reflect the essence and the spirit of the conference. So can I just ask everybody to stand up now before and just be acknowledged for all the contributions that you have made. So the breakout session facilitators, note takers, drafting committee members, can you please stand up and all? Yep. So thank, you know, I think, I really think it it's nice to hear that you feel that you see your words in there, and that's what we're trying to keep. And so hopefully in the last hour and a half where we have, how many hours do we have to edit? I think while you're enjoying lunch in the festival out there, we will be editing and trying to present a new draft back to you at 2 o'clock. And so again, in the spirit of acknowledging where this comes from, in the spirit of the process, thank you very much. Sir Moto Sensei, would you like to say anything else? Sir Moto-san. Would you like to say anything else? No. So thank you very much. So I pass on now. Thank you.
成果文書委員の皆様、ファシリテーターの宮沢さん、柴尾さん、どうもありがとうございました。もう一度皆さん大きな拍手を。会場の皆様も、たくさんのご意見ありがとうございました。この後はランチタイムになります。成果文書委員の皆様は会場の外で、ランチボックスを受け取っていただいて、4階の402のお部屋へ、ご移動ください。それ以外の方はロビーでランチボックスをお渡ししますので、この会場もしくはこの建物の1階のところで、お食事をいただければと思います。ランチボックスを受け取れるのは2時までとなっております。お弁当の、空き箱は、受け取った場所か1階の、広場のところに吉田公民館という表示があるブースがありますので、そこのところへ返してください。またお弁当と一緒にスタンプカードをお渡しします。1階で本日は未来へつなごう岡山 ESD ふれあい広場というサイドイベントを行っていて、そちらでプレゼントがもらえるブースなどもありますので、ご利用ください。また本日のパスカードの中に、こういったフードチケットという1000円分のチケットが皆様に、入っております。このチケットはサイドイベントの中で金券としてご利用できますので、ぜひお楽しみいただければと思います。ただしお釣りは出ませんので、お気をつけください。またこのフロアの左手奥302会議室や受付のありました2階ロビーやアトリウムでは公民館の活動などの展示をしております。ぜひランチタイムの間にご覧いただければと思います。なおポスター展示の撤去が3時から4時となっております。302のお部屋にポスター展示をされた方は4時には会場を閉めてしまいますので、それまでに撤収をお願いいたします。残念ながらこのセッションでお帰りの方はレシーバーを出口の方でお返しください。午後も引き続きご参加いただけます方は座席などに置かずにそれぞれお持ち歩きをいただければと思います。資料などはそのままお席に置いていただいて結構です。あと現在同時通訳のレシーバーが30台ほど戻ってきておりません。もしもカバンの中など見ていただいて、もしもあれ2つあるわっていう方がいらっしゃいましたら出口の方でお一つお返しいただければと思います。もう一つだけ、コングレスバッグの中にアンケートを入れております。参加されてお感じになったことを記入をしていただければと思います。扉を出たところに回収ボックスがありますので、お帰りになれるまでに出していただければと思いますので、よろしくお願いいたします。それでは、お待たせいたしました。2時からセッションを再開しますので、それまでご自由におくつろぎください。ありがとうございました。